Cousineau from Sound of Prana, sharing how to use consciousness practices to improve your problem-solving abilities. I've done a lot of meditation techniques that focus on non-attachment, letting go of the experience at hand and allowing yourself to receive new experiences. And how that's been useful for me in my business is stopping the boomerang effect. Now, what is the boomerang effect? It's when you keep looking at a situation, trying to find a solution to it, but from the same angle over and over and over again. And what I've realized is that a lot of the times, that's when we're attached to the form. How are we actually going to be solving that solution? So then we keep thinking of a method, and then we realize it won't meet all of our needs and it won't deliver the value that we want, or that the outcome will have undesirable effects. Then we try to think a different way of going about it, but we go through the same pattern. We think about the same tools, the same methods, the same people, the same resources. And we just keep doing that over and over again. And that's throwing the boomerang. When you practice specific techniques using meditation to get to a place of detachment, you can apply that when you're trying to solve a problem, when you're trying to find that golden solution. And once you do apply it, a lot of them might end up not leading you to where you want to go. But don't be attached to that as well. Let that go and just continue moving on. Continue thinking about new methods of going about it, of solving that issue. And it might take you 4, 7, 12 times, but the more you practice, the better you're going to get at it, and the more angles you're going to be exploring. And each angle will bring you a component of the global picture. So it'll actually make your final solution that much better. And you're also going to be doing some risk assessment, going through all the different scenarios and the different methods that are not as efficient or have undesirable effects. So a practical example of this is when I was working on a project for making some changes to a system for tracking different components, as well as tracking how the engineers would be working with their designs. And it was very complex designs. It had over 100 different parts to make each of the products, and there was several ways to customize them. Now, the main issue we had is that all of the different parts were entered in the system based on different business sectors. So the company had gone through different acquisitions, and now they were using the naming conventions from all of these different sectors, and they were trying to design products that would be merging all the different technologies, which is why they went through those acquisitions. But the engineering language that they were using to name those different components, those different builds, was totally different, and it was hard to follow in the system. And even when we found some products and we were able to create the ideal solutions, we would have some disruption in our supply chain because there was improper tracking of those parts for the different builds. Without going into too many details, which I'm sure you're going to appreciate, what ended up happening is that each time we were meeting, we just kept going from the assumption that we couldn't change the way that the components were named by the different departments. And in the end, the solution ended up being finding a new naming convention that everyone agreed that they would be able to work with and that would be optimal, and just kind of like letting go of those old structures and then applying that new naming convention on all the old parts to find out how they would be designated going forward, and then finding a solution software that allowed us to do the transfer from the old naming conventions to the new one. And that ended up decreasing our total inventory by over 30%, saving about $1 million in locked up cash. And not only that, but it also shortened the design cycles for the different products that we were developing, and it also increased collaboration between the engineers that came from the different companies that had been acquired throughout time. So, lesson here, or maybe something that is worth considering, is how can you look at a problem differently? What are different approaches that you can do? What are the underlying assumptions that you're working with? And are you sure that there's not a way that you could change the assumptions to find your ideal solutions and stop throwing that boomerang?